TeddyGrey on stuff. Whooshy gives a proper reaction.
And now for something completely different.
Hey gang, either welcome back or welcome. My name is TeddyGrey. Today I am finally going to be checking out Timothy MacDonald, Dirty Money. Now I have actually heard briefly in some clips, I think, some of Tom MacDonald's music before, but I don't know him and I haven't really heard his music before. As a testament to that, I thought his name was Tony MacDonald before this, so genuinely, no idea. I've been told, however, that he's a bit of a political artist. So in terms of like rapping ability, I'm not expecting too much. I'm guessing it's more about the subject matter and what he's speaking about. So without further ado, please like, comment, subscribe, suggestions down below. If he's any good, and I don't mind his music, because sometimes political stuff can get a bit too heavy. So if it's all right, and the comment sections aren't too wild, I might do more, all right?
They're angry that they'll never shut me up. I'm making more noise. Turn me up or turn me down, it's your choice. Black lives only matter when they got a corpse to exploit. Cause the media made billions off the protests for George Floyd. That's called ad revenue. They make cash selling you out of
As if he just called it ad revenue. This is definitely the 14 seconds. This is definitely the start of the song. And he's just came straight out of the gate like, hey, here's why the media didn't really give a shit about George Floyd. Completely true. 100% true. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. You saw Black Lives Matter absolutely everywhere. However, the Black Lives Matter as a charity receiving millions and millions in donations, and then the leaders of Black Lives Matter bought houses in white neighborhoods. You literally couldn't make that shit up. Could not make that stuff up. Clowns. Anybody that leads with race as a part of their like pressing identity, as if you can't see that. Well, actually, I'm a black woman. Really? Because I thought you were a green fish. Mental. Anybody that leads with race, I cannot deal with them. Fuck them. Weirdos.
They're angry that they'll never shut me up. I'm making more noise. Turn me up or turn me down, it's your choice. Black lives only matter when they got a corpse to exploit. Cause the media made millions off the protests for George Floyd. That's called ad revenue. They make cash selling you all the crap in the ads where they broadcast news. Ooh, the network full of liars got investment capital and segments sponsored by Pfizer. And the freedom fighters, I feel like the left just plants them to infiltrate the right.
I was literally just about to mention that. Like there was a video that I saw where it was all the times that Pfizer have had or Johnson & Johnson as well. Every time that they've had an advertisement on a news segment, it is unbelievable that the news was telling you that you have to get this vaccine, otherwise people are gonna die. You have to get this vaccine. I've still never had it. Don't give a fuck. I don't care. There's nothing with long-term effects. Why would you blindly put that thing into your body? Why? There's nothing on long-term effects of them saying, oh, it's absolutely safe, it's fine. You can't even transmit the disease. Imagine they were saying that. They were saying that on the news, and then straight after there was an advertisement for Pfizer. Pfizer literally has shares, is a shareholder in CNN. You could not make that up. So as a shareholder, with the majority of the money in the building, you're telling me there's no way they said to him, put this message out there then. We've just spent trillions on a vaccine. We need to get rid of all this so that we can make a profit. We can't turn a profit. You need to start selling misery on your news channels. Misery. You need to start, every single day there was a new statistic about how many thousands of people are dying. And the number was barely any greater than how many people died usually at that time anyway. None of the news that I was watching, mainstream media, none of it showed that. They all showed about how awful this was. Jesus Christ. I mean, I got it. I had COVID twice, and it was bad the first time, not so bad the second. Even the first time I got it, I thought, this isn't the flu, this isn't a cold, this is different. Felt man-made. It felt lab made. That's all I'm gonna say.
Corpse to exploit, cause the media make
I'll just tell
millions
you
off
how
the
I feel.
protests for George Floyd. That's called ad revenue. They make cash selling you all the crap in the ads while they broadcast news. Ooh, the network full of liars got investment capital and segments sponsored by Pfizer and the freedom fighters. I feel like the left just plans them to infiltrate the right. It's extensive planning, then it happens overnight. It's impressive branding. Make $1 million off of shirts that say "Let's go Brandon." It's a cash grab. Everyone's a lab rat. Amazon made billions.
Oh my god, lab rat. I just said it was lab made. Oh my god, he's part of the Matrix. The whole freedom fighter line. Is he talking about the trucker situation in Canada? Because again, the news only reported one side of that and made out like these freedom fighters. Wasn't it called the Freedom Convoy or something? But they were making out like they were like Trump supporters and they were all wearing red hats. All the news did was show like two people in a red hat, show one picture, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, it's all Trump." Shut up, man. Shut up. The majority of people down there were blokes who've had that job for about 20 years, did a job that nobody else wanted to do for 20 whole years, drove a truck all day, every day. Nobody wants to do that shit. They do it to feed their families. And you told them that they couldn't feed their families because they didn't want to get the jab. Despite the fact that for the majority of their job, they sit inside of a truck with themselves. They were the most socially distanced people before social distancing. They were in a car on their own driving. Makes no sense. Oh, but no, you can't have a job. There's no way you can feed your family unless we get to stab you. Shut up. How the fuck have we got to this point in humanity?
For shirts that say "Let's go Brandon." It's a cash grab.
We are
Everyone's a lab rat. Amazon made millions of dollars from sanitizer and black masks, and that's that. Funny how the terrorists who attack always come from places that are oil rich and have gas. Democrats, they don't give a damn. What is this about? Our military trapped in the Middle East, can't get them out. Heroes are the ones who had the Constitution written down. Y'all are using hero while the
Oh my god. Heroes are the ones who had the Constitution written down. Like these were great men, you know. Nobody's perfect, so, you know, one of them had a slave or may have had several. Nobody's perfect, and in the time that they were in back then, they were considered great men. We can't judge them by today's standards. How can we possibly do that? They weren't around today. They didn't know what we know now, so how can we judge them by today's standards? Shut up. They were great men. They made the Constitution. All men are equal. Rare tear tear. And yes, it was a different time, so maybe they could have included women in that. Maybe they could have included, you know, migrants, black people. Maybe they could have included them in the original document. However, they didn't. So let's not make bones about it. The majority of things that they made were to keep peace, to keep a law and order amongst the millions of people that reside in the USA. It's so big. I mean, to be fair, I don't feel like countries should be governed on a whole country level anyway. I believe that they should be governed by individual communities that work individually together to create some sort of hive mind. I don't believe you can govern that many people because people are so different. People are so different. Even the UK, which is so small comparative to almost every other country, England is very small, and yet the north and the south of England could not be further apart in terms of like even colloquialisms and how we act, things we do, putting milk in before water when you're making a cup of tea. That's like a very light example, but there's so many differences, and that's just in one tiny country. Imagine how many differences there are between Americans, like the different states, north, south, and every state, all 50, is it 51 states? Or 50 states? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's 50, or was it 51st state? Was that like, what am I on about? But yeah, I believe that they should be governed on like an individual level, not like a whole, you know? And I know that some of them are. I know mostly in the States it's like that, like they have their own laws for certain things, but whoa, it's about to get very political. This guy's talking about, like he said that why are all the terrorists from places that are oil rich? Like, it's so true. The Republican manifesto in the 90s was to create a war because we were currently in the 90s. We'd finished with we'd finished up a lot of the wars that we'd had, like world wars. There were no major dysfunctions amongst the planet. So there were obviously enemies that they were looking at, like China, Russia, potentially India, Brazil. There were enemies that they were looking at, Cuba. However, there were no wars. So the manifesto in the 90s by the Republican Party, which was agreed upon by Democrats too, was that they needed to provoke a war. They needed to poke holes in other countries. And they did exactly that. And by the 2000s, within 1 year of the new century, the collapse of the Twin Towers. Within 1 year of a new century. And you got to understand, these politicians, these governmental ideologues, they work on a century basis. You and I might think, what are we going to do next week? What are we going to do tomorrow? Perhaps, what are we going to do next year? The furthest you might think is, where am I going to be 10 years from now? There's whole governmental structures that are working 100 years in advance. Where are we going to be in 100 years? Regular people, we can't fathom that sort of planning, that sort of megalomania. Regular people, we can't even fathom it. We're not even a minute into this. This has been 10 minutes on 1 minute of a fucking song. This is ridiculous. W's up, thumbs up in the chat if you agree with him though.
For shirts that say let's go Brandon, it's a cash grab, everyone's a lab rat. Amazon made billions of dollars from sanitizer and black masks, and that's that. Funny how the terrorists who had tagged always...
I completely missed that bit as well. Amazon made millions, potentially billions from selling hand sanitizer and face masks. Like, you genuinely couldn't make this shit up, all whilst they're not paying taxes in the countries that they reside in. Amazon is not paying tax in this country, in the UK, and yet in almost every major city there are at least one. There's at least one Amazon warehouse, and the things are huge. They are monsters. They take up so much land, and they don't pay tax. Amazon, Google, Starbucks, who else? Jimmy Carr, Gary Barlow.
Dollars from sanitizer and black masks, and that's that. Funny how the terrorists who had tagged always come from places that are oil rich and have gas. Democrats, they don't give a damn. What is this about? Our military trapped in the Middle East, can't get them out. Heroes are the ones who had the Constitution written down. Y'all are using hero while describing Kyle Rittenhouse. 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cents, 4. We get less and they get more. By insult since we were born, they want more.
That's a very liberal take. I thought people told me that he was on the right. I know that most of his talking points, even so far, have been, well, have they? No. This guy seems like a centrist. Politically, in terms of even global politics, I'd identify as a centrist. I'm more centre-right, but I think that's just because capitalism still exists. Maybe if it didn't, I'd be centre-left, but still in the centre. I don't believe that you could be on either side of a spectrum and make your mind up before anybody's even brought out a fucking manifesto. That'd be ridiculous, to just blindly be on the left just because you're a liberal. Oh, well, whatever they say, I'll just agree with. Shut, you idiot. Be in the centre and then make your mind up. You have to critically think. You can't just have blind faith. It makes no sense. Half of what he said, though, liberal. Because the whole oil thing, the whole people not paying taxes, these are all liberal talking points. And the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, Kyle Rittenhouse, for those who don't know, I don't believe he was charged with it, but I believe he was arrested for inciting violence, and pretty sure he killed a man. Unfortunately, and I do believe him when he says that it was, like, he didn't mean to do it, but, on the other side, he did go there with a gun, and he didn't know that there were Black Lives Matter protests going on. Allegedly, him and his father and a group of other people, and there were text messages backing this up, but it could have been staged, we have no idea, so I'm just going off the facts. They were texting amongst each other, and they said that they were going to go down and protect local businesses by just providing security, telling people to mosey on, and there was a lot of that going on for hours before this incident took place, but an incident did take place. Kyle Rittenhouse let off the shots. Guy died. I believe he was a skater. Not that that's important, but yeah, people People labelled him a racist, people labelled him a bigot, people labelled him a white supremacist just for the fact that he was there with a gun. But you have to look at it from both sides, you know. People wanted to protect their businesses, and they would have been happy that Kyle Rittenhouse and his team of friends were there to help. They would have been happy about that. And let's not forget that the Black Lives Matter activists were entirely wrecking and destroying black-owned businesses. Literally striking at the very heart of the thing that they were talking about, which was all this white anger and these white people are terrible. But then all these black-owned businesses were seeing were horrible black people who were smashing everything that they'd worked hard for. That they'd worked hard for in an era where it was so much harder to work for that stuff than it is now. We're on a level playing field now. Don't act any different. Do not act any different. It's so dumb to even... That take is so outdated, it's unreal. So outdated, like en masse as well. If you like, individual oppression definitely exists. And there are many different... It's a multifaceted reason as to why people are individually oppressed. It could be because you're annoying, but you assume it's because you're black. This is the problem. You can't blanket say that there's oppression going on, because then people will view that as the reason they're oppressed and never check their personality for anything else. I don't know. People need to learn, man.
Lesson they get more by insult since we were born. They want money, dirty dollars fill their pockets while our coffins fill the ground. They make profits solving problems they create to keep us down. Dirty money, dirty money.
I'm guessing that's the hook. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that hook. It's basic. But then again, you know, the subject matter of what he's talking about within the verses is a hell of a lot more important. But what I would say to him, any sort of constructive criticism, I'm sure he'd take it on if he ever saw this. Just leave out a hook. You don't really need one. I'd rather have 3 minutes of him rapping absolute bars, nothing but facts. I'd rather have 3 minutes of that, and then potentially a bridge to take us off to the end. I'd prefer that than like interspersed with three, because I'm guessing there's going to be this 3 times. Might fast forward through it. I really didn't like that hook. Not that I'm unappreciative of it, you know, he's a talented guy, but it's just very flat and boring.
They might kill me for the song, it's all classified intelligence. Don't need to go to war to secretly be getting benefits. When Russia launches...
I hate it when people say they might kill me for this. Like, who? Think about all of the things you've been privy to, all of the information that you've been privy to. You can only know because somebody's told you, and if that person's not dead, it's probably safe to say you're not going to die either, you know? Nothing is said so far as classified information. Although we haven't heard the verse yet, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn. We'll see.
Classified intelligence, don't need to go to war to secretly be getting benefits. When Russia launches rockets, we condemn them, but there's evidence a US politician owns the screws they're assembled with. Ain't no war on drugs, it's economic. You make money off it. So
that's because there are many, mainly Republican senates, but there are also a lot of Democratic senates that have shares in, what's that? Is it Lockheed and Martin? I believe it's Lockheed and Martin. Who are one of the main proponents in the war machine, and there's a lot of them. I believe personally that if you do become a politician, you then cannot have stocks and shares anywhere, period. Because you know, politicians, they don't even get paid a lot. Like, it's like 100 to 200 grand a year. It's not really that much. You'd think they get paid a lot more, but they earn their money in different ways. I'll let you do your own guesswork as to where those ways are. You know, lobbying, shares, stocks, things that they have privy information to, preemptive strikes. And that's not even a war bar, but it works, you know. He's right. He's absolutely right. But also, I don't like the fact that the US or the UK, and don't get me wrong, I'm not just blaming America. In my personal opinion, I believe that Boris Johnson spearheaded this war between Russia and the Ukraine, because they were at a point where they were getting into decent territory in terms of an agreement. However, Boris Johnson flew to flew to the Ukraine 4 days later, chaos. So, I don't know. They obviously went there with the intention of saying, oh no, fuck Putin, you've got NATO, don't worry. And then NATO barely helps them in the beginning to make sure that Ukraine is so defeated they need NATO's help. Then NATO step in, looking like the good guys. It's the same shit they did to Kosovo in the war that they had in the 90s. They had that war with Serbia. NATO did exactly the same thing. They could have helped out a long time before, but they didn't. They chose to allow Kosovars to be raped, murdered in their thousands. I mean, you know, there's still family members that haven't been found. They could have fled and they could have roamed the globe like a lot of Albanians did. However, there are a lot that are still missing and people don't know what happened to them. And the reason for that is because NATO left it far too long. Well, that's far too long in the opinion of a Kosovar. In the opinion of NATO, they left it exactly the right amount of time because the Albanians were willing to accept NATO, as opposed to NATO being forced upon them, like they were trying to do for years before anyway. Same thing with Ukraine. So, but they also can't chastise Russia for what they're doing when America did the same thing to Cuba when it wanted to defect from America. Cuba wanted to defect from America and it wanted to become a part of this whole BRIC thing with China. Cuba wanted to become a part of that, allegedly. Ugh, I hate that I have to say that because I feel like I know that with certainty, but I'm not about to prove it on this video, so I have to say allegedly. But yeah, Cuba wanted to do that, so what did America do? They bombed the fuck out of Cuba. That's exactly what happened, you know? The UK and the US are currently bombing the shit out of Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, all over the world. The UK and the US are dropping bombs for no reason. Often it's just intelligence, but there've been so many civilian casualties, so many civilian deaths, and we don't hear about it on our news over here. I have to go out of my way to news in those countries to see this shit, but it's unbelievable. And I don't understand how they can condemn the actions of Russia whilst they're doing exactly the same thing. It means there's more than humanity at play, you know. That's why I don't support this war, but I don't want to see countries helping Ukraine. I don't want to see it. I never wanted to see Ukraine get a backbone because I knew the countries wouldn't help them really. Germany's doing their bit, but there's more Germans in Russia than there are in Germany. So how the fuck does that make any sense? I've just spoken for about 5 minutes, but if you learned something, let me know.
Classified intelligence, don't need to go to war to secretly be getting benefits. When Russia launches rockets, we condemn them, but there's evidence a US politician owns the screws they're assembled with. Ain't no war on drugs, it's economic. You make money off an inmate, every jail cell is profit. Our prisons are privately owned, illegal marijuana just mean kids smoking weed turn to dollars in their pockets, let's be honest. Domestic threats in comparison to nuclear powers who hate the West is embarrassing. Still we label truckers in the convoy as terrorists and confiscate donations, we have no idea where it is. A pipeline leaks, price of gas goes higher.
Whoa. Can I just say, if Elon Musk still earned PayPal, that wouldn't happen. That would not have happened. They took all of their donations, didn't they? What was it, GoFundMe? And they had donations coming in through PayPal, but they stopped all of their PayPal transactions and then immediately stopped all of the GoFundMe. Because it was like, no, okay, you won't pay us for doing our job of being a trucker. Okay, fine, we'll get the people to pay us because they believe in our message. And then the Canadian government, Trudeau, jumped up little twat in blackface as well. Justin Trudeau. Do you know how many times that guy's been in blackface? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for Canadians that guy's in power. Kick him out. Justin Trudeau. What an idiot, man. What was I going to say? But yeah, so stop them from being paid because he was like, okay, you're not going to take the vaccine. You're not going to do what I say. You're not going to do what I tell you to. Then you don't get any money. All right, we'll get it from the people. No. You can't get money from the people. We're stopping your bank accounts. We saw this shit with Kanye West, and okay, his was for anti-Semitism, which I still don't agree that you should stop him from being able to house his money in a bank. This is ridiculous. If they could, oh God, it opens the floodgates for so much shit. It's unbelievable. In 2018, there was a Christian couple in America. I believe they were from Mississippi. I'm not sure. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. But they didn't want to do a homosexual cake because it goes against their religion. And they were sued. However, a bank can just say, no, you can't have your money in here. Even though they allow anybody. They allow criminals to have their money in there. But Kanye West, they could just go, no. And then that puts a message out there that there's things you can't say or we take your money away from you. And that's not good. People should not be allowed to fucking control your speech like that. I don't know.
Smoking weed, turn the dollars in their pockets, let's be honest. Domestic threats in comparison to nuclear powers who hate the West is embarrassing. Still we label truckers in the convoy as terrorists and confiscate donations, we have no idea where it is. A pipeline leaks, price of gas goes higher. Stock market crash, everybody gets fired. Economy is weak while we trying to beat a virus. $1 trillion in debt to China. We celebrate the smallest battles we're winning so they can...
And that's the worst thing about this whole war, is that they've just led Russia and the Ukraine into the hands of China. That's what the UK and the USA have done collectively. And I don't just mean them. Germany played a big part in it as well, so did France. There are many other... I say them as countries. It was their politicians, you know, because I don't want to put the UK in that, because I'm not fucking part of it. I would have slapped Boris Johnson just for having the cheek. Oh, shall I go to the Ukraine and fuck everything up? No, you shouldn't. Leave them be. Leave them be. Definitely don't need a fucking world war. And I'm more worried that if Vladimir Putin is embarrassed on a world stage, he'll press that nuke button so fast. That's what I'm more afraid of. I'm not even afraid of him winning. Because if he wins, then what? He's going to take over the Ukraine, and then what? Then what? He's not going to start pushing borders after that. The Ukraine, in his head, was Soviet anyway, so... But none of the other shit was, so... I don't know, what else could they take? And there's no way they could go further south with it, because then China would have something to say, so... I don't know. What I do believe, though, is that this plays into the hands of China, and that the Chinese economy, and the need for them to create a new global economy and market, they've just played right into their hands. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
The virus, $1 trillion in debt to China. We celebrate the smallest battles we're winning so they can publish the headline that's gonna fuel the vision. But if we champion the crumbs, then it's crumbs that we're given. And we don't make any progress, we're stuck at the beginning. 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cents, 4. We get less and they get more. By insult since we were born. They want money. We want dirty dollars fill their pockets while our coffin.
I mean, he can't really talk on that because all that he's said so far, like, none of it's been positive. Nothing he's said has been positive. And if he's done other political tracks, I'm guessing they were along a similar vein. Like, none of them were positive. They weren't saying, you know, come on, guys, we can band together, we can do this thing, we can really make a change. I doubt it's that sort of thing, which is where he's missing that sort of, like, liberal mindset, because they're all about action, which is where I feel like liberals do shine, because they do prefer actions, whereas I feel like a lot of Republicans, they're very logically minded, so they sort of sit down and think and talk about stuff instead of actually doing shit. Especially with the new age, because obviously money's easier made online now, so most of the richest people now, all of their work is done on a computer, so they can just sit there and do fuck all. I don't know, I'm waffling again, but I say that to say he's also one of these people that's selling misery. Do you know what I mean? He's reminding you of the stuff that you already know is happening. If you've got a brain about you, half of the stuff I've spoken about, you probably already knew. If you didn't, then I would urge you to become more socially aware. You don't have to do it on like a global scale, but as long as you know sort of the left from right, you'll be able to navigate social situations and political conversations definitely a lot clearer if you get a better sense of what left and right is.
Fill the ground, they make profit, solving problems they create to keep us down. Dirty money.
Should you?
Dirty money.
I really don't like this song.
I don't want your dirty money. Money, 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 money. enough soap to scrub, it's soaked in blood. It's all about the money, 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 money. Every time we make a buck, they take from us. It's all about the money, money, money.
That's tax.
The dollar runs our lives until we die. It's all about the money, 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 money. It controls your mind and it controlling mine. $30 fill their pockets while our coffins fill the ground. They make profit solving problems they create to keep us down. Dirty money.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just going to be the hoof again. I know I could do without it because I definitely don't need to hear it 3 times on that track. I barely even wanted to hear it once. But once would have been fine if he'd have put it at the end or the beginning. But Tomothy, in future, just leave it out. Just don't use one. Just don't use a hook. We don't need one, especially not when it's that flat. I didn't like that. I like the video. It's very simple. It's just a man rapping at a camera. But in order to, pardon me, in order to not make it too boring, the directors obviously put him in like different scenarios. You know, he was on top of the White House lawn with all the rubble, and then he had the mask on, but it was like a close-up of his face. I like that. It's a nice way to direct it, because it is still, even when he's just got the mask on and he's rapping, it's a guy rapping at a camera, but to give it that close up, it gave it something different, you know. So I like the video, nice and simple, with a bit of a twist to it. The beat was nice. The subject matter, a lot of it, like I said, I do agree with a lot of it. I think it'd be difficult not to agree with a lot of it, which is maybe where his pulling power comes from. I don't know, maybe, because I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've been told by people who I know are liberal, who are like, oh, fuck this guy, he's one of those Trump supporters, he's a red hat wearer. I've heard things like that about him before, so maybe he's had like very far right opinions before that he's not managed to articulate as well as he did with these ones, but these points in particular were very centrist. They were very centrist because it held capitalism in mind and condemned it, you know, like any Republican would in the acknowledgement, but then to tear it down is a very liberal thing to do. So, but then demonizing Kyle Rittenhouse is a very liberal leftist take. So all over the place. But I'd say centrist, and those are the sorts of political speakers who I enjoy listening to. Of course, I listen to the right and the left both equally. I have usually destiny for the leftist and that sort of group, Hassan Arbi. But then on the right, you know, there's people like Stephen Crowder. Obviously, R.I.P. his career at the minute. But there's a lot of people on the right end of the spectrum that I do enjoy listening to, just to get that take, and then I'll get that take. But mainly centrist. That's how you should remain, you know. Listen to both sides and make your own mind up. Be an individual in that sense, you know. And then if everybody did that, then the individuals that you do actually align with, you would really align with everything that they align with, you know. Well, politics, eh? It's gonna fuck us all up one day, I'm pretty sure. Humans can't even manage their own lives individually, singularly. So I don't understand how humans en masse can govern and control humans en masse. You know, they think that the best way to do it is by fear, clearly. So I don't hold much hope for the future. But what I can say is that, you know, as long as messages like this are spread and they are allowed to be spread, then I believe people will continue to think for themselves. And I believe that enough people will think for themselves that, I don't know, I just hope that there's never a point in the evolution of humans where that part of us dwindles or ceases to exist. That part where we do question authority and we do question the things that are happening and the things that we're being told have to happen. Like, we're still questioning it, you know? I don't know. I just fear that with this whole misinformation thing, there's going to be a whole generation of people that believe that the way to get information, like there's specific sources that you can only get the correct information from, you know? And that's never been the case. That's never been the case. I read in history books when I was a kid, I read that the Egyptians built the pyramids. That's what I read. And then the reality is that that's not the case. But I read that in a book. If I was to put all of my faith into the school and education system, do you know how many things I would be wrong about today? And I left school 2009, so that's not even that long ago. Not even that long ago. Just over 10 years ago. And yet still in the history books were things that were wrong. Still in science, they told us things that were wrong. Now, to our knowledge, you know. I don't know. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode of Politics with Teddy, then please make sure that you smash the like button. I'm going to be doing some of this commentary sort of stuff, whether it's on global politics or society at large. I'm going to be doing commentary stuff over on my other channel, so if you want, wait for it there. Or I'll be on Twitch. I'll be on Twitch very soon. And I have a lot that's already in the works for when I get onto Twitch, so big things happen. I can't wait. It's your boy TeddyGrey on stuff. Deuces.